God's capacity or ability, how many miracles do you think God could work in one person in one lifetime? Is there a limit? How many miracles could God do through you in a lifetime? It's unlimited. Correct? You would think. Now watch this now. How many miracles did Elisha ask Elijah or ask God to be able to do? He said of Elijah said, ask whatever you want. And Elisha said, okay, I want a double portion. Correct? Okay, all you pastors, how many miracles did Elijah do? Recorded miracles did Elijah do in his lifetime? It was 9. I believe it was 9. Okay? How many miracles did... It was actually a little bit more than that, wasn't it? Anyway, the number doesn't matter. Might have been 13, I think. In Elisha's lifetime, let's say it's 13. In Elisha's lifetime, he did 25 miracles. In his lifetime. Then he died. How much did he ask for? Double. He got double minus 1. And then some people decided to bury a man in the same cave with Elisha, and it touched Elisha's bone, and the man sprung up to life. The next man they buried beside him didn't. So how many miracles was Elisha responsible for? Exactly double. Even after he was dead, God still had the ability to do something. Now let me ask you this question. What if Elisha would have asked for triple? Is God able? What if he asked for 10 times as much? God able? 100 times? God able? You see my point? The only limitation on what God can do in you and in your finances and in your ministry is your subconscious thinking, which is terrifying. That's why I want to erase that verse. When I got this revelation, I was like, oh. Because all of us have subconscious limitations. Based on our upbringings, what our parents told us we could be, could do. Children who are born into poverty usually end up adults in poverty. Children born into wealth usually end up adults in wealth. There's a certain standard. The limitation isn't anything to do with God. The limitation has everything to do with you. And I realized, when I got this revelation, I realized in my own life, I was like, oh man, where's my limitation? That's the next question. Where's my limitation? Where am I building fences? What do I expect? Not in my mind, not what I want in my mind. What do I expect? Have you ever wanted something so bad, I wanted it, and when it didn't come, didn't happen, you're going, I knew it wouldn't work out. You ever said that? Oh, what was that? That was your subconscious thought. You wanted it, you prayed for it, I want this, I pray for this. God, I'm begging. God, you don't get what your mind wants, you get what your heart. Whoever says to this mountain and does not doubt in his mind, does not doubt in his heart. Because every one of us is born into limitations in our thinking, subconscious thinking. And now watch. It took one man to change the culture of Korea, South Korea, and the church. And you know how he did it? Dr. Youngie Cho, you know how he did it? See, before Dr. Youngie Cho, the church in Korea, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, if you know the history better than I do, but the church in South Korea wasn't big. They was struggling. It was a nation like any other nation, struggling to get the gospel. It was a Buddhist nation, struggling to get the gospel out. It was tough soil, tough soil, tough soil. And all of a sudden, Dr. Youngie Cho comes in there, and God speaks to him and says, I want you to believe for a church of 100. And he's like, 100? Nobody's doing a church of 100. And he said, I went on my knees and got on my knees, and I prayed until I saw it. Where? He prayed until, look, man, that's key, isn't it? Prayed until he saw it. He changed his own heart thinking by God, I'm claiming. God, I claim. God, I claim. God, I claim. God, I claim. A church of 100. I see a church of 100. I see a church. Not just I want a church. I see a church of 100. And it took a while. It took season. And he says, man, I wrestled and wrestled until all of a sudden, he says, and once I saw it, I was like, okay. And he said, I went to work. The church grew to 100. And God said, I want you to believe for a church of 500. Oh, 500. Oh. I could never pastor a church of 500. So he went and prayed. And he prayed and he prayed and he prayed until, and he says, once I saw it, I stopped praying and I went to work. Church grew to 500. God said, I want to believe a church of 1,000. Prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed. And then the next one, God said, I want you to believe for a church of 10,000. 10,000. God, that's not even, no one's done that, but that's not even possible. But he says, I went to my prayer time and I prayed and I prayed and prayed and I prayed and I prayed and prayed and I prayed and I prayed until I saw it and I went to work. And he says, soon the church was 10,000. Then God said, 100,000. Nobody in the world's ever had a church of 100,000. And he's like, this is ridiculous. This is crazy. And he says, I went to my knees and I prayed 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 until I saw it. And I went to work. And then God said 1 million. Is God able? No, okay, let me, don't rush that answer. Because here's the rest of the question. Is God able through you? Could God use you to build a church of 1 million? Could God use you? I got to be honest. When I ask myself that question, I'm going, would I want it? Of course I want it. Do I believe it? Honestly, no. But you don't need to believe for 1 million when you have a church of 1,500. You need to believe for the next level. And all you need to do is expand the fence just a little bit. And God will farm to the fence line. And you get to the place where you believe to that level. God is able. Now, why? This is all throughout the Scriptures. This is all throughout the Scriptures. Jesus healed multiple ways, not because he wanted to, but because the woman with the issue of blood said, if I touch his garment, I will be healed. Fence line. God answered. The general said, if you just speak, my servant will be healed. Fence line. Fence lines. And God, this is how God works with faith. God farms to the fence line. Not according to what you want and not according to the name and claim of what you say, according to the heart thinking. So what we need to do is change our heart thinking. when it comes to business, finance, and saying, okay, what kind of business do I see? What kind of church do I see? What kind of wealth do I see? Because you have expectations. I'm not talking about what you want to see. I'm talking about what you really see. What is possible in your heart. And if you have to search your heart and say, search me, O God. That's what Dave, search me, O God. What's in me? What's in there? What's in there? What is there? Search me, O God. What is in there? Holy Spirit, help me. What's in there? And let's identify exactly where I am so that I can know where my next fence line's got to be. God, identify in me where I am so that you can take me to that next level. Because that's what we need to do. We need to go to the next level. Pastor Jay was in his, Jay Kumar, had limitations. Couldn't find a church building, couldn't afford to build a house. That's how he got started in business. Sounds like pretty good limitations. Then all of a sudden he went, what if? He had 5 other families who came to him for counseling who couldn't afford a house. And he's like, what if we were to pool our money together? What if we could pool our money together? If we put all of our money together, we might be able to put a down payment on a property that we could maybe build an apartment for all 6 of us. And they did. They were able to do that, and they convinced the banks, and they worked this, and they pooled their money together, and they built, an apartment building with 1 or 2 extra apartments, and those sold like that, which gave him money. And he says, and it also he was like, wait a second, we've tapped into something here, and that's how they started a business. And only a couple years later, his business. He showed me his business chart, and it's like, zzz, and then all of a sudden, poof, income. See, sometimes your physical limitations are your greatest opportunity for innovation. Creativity comes when you're limited. If you can choose to stop, no, I can't, no, I can't, no, I can't. Put up a fence line. It's not possible in my country. It's not possible in my city. It's not possible on this block. It's not possible here. It's not possible here. You can put up a roadblock, or you could be like the lame man on the mat. Couldn't get to Jesus. There's a wall. He could have said, I'll come back tomorrow. But he said, no, I must. So they dug a hole in Jesus' roof. It was at Jesus' house. Look, Mark 2, Jesus came home. They dug a hole in Jesus' roof, lowered him down in a mat. His limitation became his opportunity for faith and breakthrough, his heart thinking. And he walked out of there, couldn't get in, but he walked out of there healed. So where is your heart thinking? Where's your limitations? Each one of you has a different background. Each one of you has different opportunities. And we say our limitations all the time. Oh, the Philippines are so tough. Oh, we can't do this in Myanmar. Oh, the church just doesn't. Oh, the government doesn't. Oh, and we get these limitations. I can't. We say it all the time, don't we? You and I do. We say it all the time. And all we're saying, we're just, whenever we say it, the more we say it, the more we're building a fence. And God farms to the fence line. So the thing we need to do is somehow identify where our fence is. You have a marriage fence. You have a financial fence. You have a church fence. All of us have fences in our health fence. We have expectations, all these expectations, what we expect, what we feed ourselves, and what we expect. And all these expectations, they come and they build fences, and God farms to the fence line. So we need to identify where our fences are and find a way, okay, let's attack that fence and overcome. If you're here last night, I talked about our church, and I said, remember I preached the sermon, and I said we're going to see 365 salvations in the next year? Remember that? You know what shocked me when I got this revelation? We had 380 salvations that year. Was God able to do more? You know what I did? I declared a number, and God farmed to the fence line. Isn't that crazy? I went back and repented. I wasn't proud. I went back and said, God, I'm sorry for limiting you. That's when he said, we got to do multiplication. Lowest number is. And then I said 730, and we're Guess what we're on track for? I mean, I said it, this we're on track for, and I'm like, I did it again. This is why life and death is in the power of the tongue, and out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. You see all these scriptures, how all of a sudden these scriptures go, whoa, 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 whoa. Is this helping anybody? Just making you a little bit more terrified? I'll end happy. We'll learn how to overcome this. Okay? Well, this is what I want to... How do you change your heart thinking? How do you change that fence? How do you do it? You first have to identify where your fence line is. And each one of you has a fence line. Usually brought up by some expectation. Maybe your parents, you're raised in a place and they said, you'll never amount to anything, you can't do anything, you can't do it, you can't do it. And you didn't realize that this built a subconscious expectation for failure, that you weren't going to do something. And maybe your teachers told you, your coaches told you, somebody told you, you're not good, you can't, and you didn't realize it built a subconscious thing. It's not your fault that some of your fence lines aren't your fault. What you need to do is identify where it is, not be ashamed and guilty, just identify where it is and saying, okay, what do I actually expect? And then you need to do what Dr. Youngie Cho did, and you need to actually go back, identify where that is, and begin to confess a different confession. Find in the Word what God sees about you, what God thinks about you, and find these confessions and confess differently. No, this is awesome. This is awesome. This is awesome. Watch this now. This is crazy. When I saw this, I was like, oh. This worked for Jesus too, by the way. I mean, Jesus was the unlimited one. It worked for Jesus. You know what I think one of the biggest lies of the enemy is? There's actually Christians, I was raised in the church being taught that if you say the words I am, that it's because it's a name of God. If you say the word I am, you're actually cursing. This was I was taught. I was like, if you say I am, and they did, a beer company in Canada came up with this slogan, I am, period, and all the Christian church went, it's blasphemy. And I watched it. I was like, watch this now. It was a lie of the enemy, and here's why. Because the name I am, in and of itself, is a remarkable revelation. Moses had limitations, did he not? He was raised in Pharaoh's house through the biggest, richest kingdom ever. He had some limitations. And when God came to him and said, you're going to deliver my people, Moses' response is, I can't. Fence. So God said the first thing God had to do was change Moses' fence line. So how did he change Moses' fence line? God said to him, well, who should I say sent me? And he said, I am. You are what? I know you got to, Moses is just waiting. I am what? I mean, if I introduced myself to you and you said, what's your name? I'd say, I am. You'd be sitting there going, and Moses was with God going, no, I am that I am. What? Said Yahweh. I mean, I am. Only us now understand what, but look at this now. What was God saying? Moses, whatever you lack, I am. You lack prosperity? I am Jireh, your provider. You lack health? I am Rophe, your health. You lack peace? I am Shalom, your peace. Wherever your fence line is, whatever you lack, I am. Oh, wow. Isn't that cool? Now watch this now. What did Jesus say all the time? I am the resurrection and the life. Do you ever notice when Jesus said it? Do you notice when Jesus said, I'm the resurrection and life? He said it right before he raised Lazarus from the dead. I am the bread of life. Do you know when he said that? Right before he fed 5,000. You getting this? Watch now. Watch now. You have the power of life and death in your tongue. Right? Your confessions determine your fence line. And when you say, I am tired, I am sick, I'm not able, I'm too poor, I can't do this. When you say this, you're not just stating, you're actually declaring offense. And if you say it enough, now listen, if you're sick, yeah, I'm not feeling well, I'm not saying deny, but listen, if you declare it enough, it'll actually, from your mouth, watch this now, your mind thinks, and in order to get what your mind thinks to your heart, it has to pass through. And you begin to confess with your mouth this. Now, what would happen if, watch this, I realized that I had some limitations in my limited thinking. And I thought, okay, I'm going to try this just for fun. And I'm going to begin to start confessions. I'm going to start my day with, what do I want to become? And so I looked at this and I said, okay. So I started saying this. I am. And then I thought, what is it that I want to answer? Okay, where do I think my limitations are? I was like, okay, well, how am I going to change it? How am I going to change my confession? How am I going to do this? What am I going to do? How am I going to do that? And I wrestled with, what do I want? What do I want? What do I want? And then once I was able to identify it, I came up with 4 different statements. And I could summarize all these things. And I started writing out all these things. And I looked, okay, what am I? Who am I? And I began to write all these things out. And then I summarized them into 4 concise statements. And every single morning, when I get up, I proclaim, I am. I'm not telling you what it is. And I begin to fill in the blank. Now, this is crazy. I started doing this a couple years ago. Okay? And things began to change in our church. And I recently had a friend of mine who's a world-renowned, world-class leadership teacher came to our church. And he, as I picked him up from the airport, and we start talking, and he's asking about the church. He's like, he's been tracking our church online and watching all this kind of stuff. And he looked at me and he says, Kelly, he says, you're this. And it was, I'll give you one, because this story makes a lot more sense. I proclaim every day that I'm a wise master builder. That's the scripture. I'm a wise master builder. Because I thought, I want to pastor large church. I'm a wise master builder. I'm a wise master builder. Every morning I confess I'm a wise master builder. Is that a common saying? Wise master builder? It's a biblical statement, but it's not a common saying. And my friend looked at me in the car and he says, after he's like, Kelly, I've been following this and I saw this and I'm watching what you're doing and how you're strategizing. He says, Kelly, you know what you are? You're a wise master builder. And I went, ugh. Who says that? And I realized in a period of a year or a year and a half or 2 years, my confession became my reality. And I expanded my fence. Let me ask you this. What do you want to be? Who do you want to be? What do you want to achieve in your ministry, in your life, and saying, okay, where do I lack? Where's my limitations? What do I lack?